Hello everyone, let's get ready to learn English by reading. Today I have an article called Trump Pleads Not Guilty in Georgia Election Fraud Case. Now guys, remember, if you think these videos are too fast, there is a button down there that you can press to make the video slower and easier to follow. And guys, if you're enjoying these videos, why don't you hit that subscribe button to help more people find these free English lessons? All right, guys, let's get started. So let's start with the title. Trump pleads not guilty in Georgia election fraud case. So this word plead, okay? When we plead in a court, we say that we did it or we didn't do it. So Trump said that he is not guilty. He said he didn't do it. What didn't he do? It says he is not guilty in the election fraud case. Now you might know this word, election. We're talking about when you vote for a person. And of course here, we're talking about voting for the president of the US. But it was fraud, or it might have been fraud. Fraud is when you lie to someone to try to get something. And we'll learn exactly what that is a little later on. Okay, let's jump into it. Former US President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in his Georgia election fraud case, waiving the right to be in court next week. Okay, let's start with the first word, former. It means he used to be something. I am a former teenager. I used to be a teenager. I'm also a former waiter. I used to be a waiter, but I'm not a waiter anymore. Donald Trump is the former US president. He used to be the president, but he isn't anymore. Okay? And he pleaded not guilty in his Georgia election fraud case, waiving the right to be in court next week. When you waive your right, it's kind of saying, okay, I know I have this right, but I'm not going to use it. So for Trump, he was allowed to be in court when they discussed this case. But he said, okay, I know I have that right to come to court, but I'm going to waive that right. I'm going to know that I have the right, but not use it. I'm not bothered about coming to court next week. So Mr. Trump is among 19 people accused of trying to change the results of the 2020 state election. Now notice this, we're calling him Mr. Trump. But if you listen to a lot of American podcasts or watch American TV, you might notice that they even call former presidents president. They might say, hello, President Obama, hello, President Trump, hello, President Bush. Even though these people are not the president anymore, it's just a part of American culture to call them that way. But outside America, we're a little more accurate with our wording. So we just say Mr. or former president. So Mr. Trump is among 19 people. Okay. If he is among 19 people, it means there are a group of 19 people and he is just one of them. There are 19 people total and he is just among them. He's just inside that group. And they're accused of trying to change the results. Okay. If you accuse someone, you say that they did something. It could be true. It doesn't have to be true. I accuse you of watching this video, right? I think that's probably true. But I could also accuse you of eating spiders for breakfast. You're probably not doing that, but I still accused you. Okay, so we usually use accuse in a negative way. Doesn't have to be. But here it is negative. So Mr. Trump is among 19 people accused of trying to change the results of the 2020 state election. Okay, let's do some pronunciation. Notice I don't say of. And in fact, I almost never say of. I say of. So that actually sounds like UV, of. Accused of trying to change the 2020 state election. And very quickly, I also want to talk about years. When we talk about years, we actually break them up into the first two digits and the second two digits. So this is 2020. It's not 2020. It's not common to talk that way. And here we have 1984. Here we have 2016. And here we have 3076. That's how we talk about years. And in fact, because we talk this way, we actually save time. We don't say the year 2023. We just say 2023. And people know that because we are speaking in these two-digit groups, that we're talking about a year. So we're actually saving time. Pretty cool, right? Last week, he turned himself in at Fulton County Jail in Atlanta, where he had his mugshot taken. Now, this is a phrasal verb, to turn yourself in, but he turned himself in. That just means to make yourself known by police. So, Trump went to jail to say, I'm here. You're looking for me, and I'm here. Okay? We could also turn someone else in. You know, maybe my neighbor has been stealing dogs at the park, for example. I might go to the police and turn him in. I might say, I know the person who has been stealing dogs, and he lives next door to me. This is his address. Okay? So you can turn yourself in. Hello, I'm here. You're looking for me. Or you can turn someone else in. Hi, this is the person you're looking for. And it says here that Trump had his mugshot taken. Now, mugshot is an interesting word. We're actually talking about this picture on the right, where he looks a bit angry. That's his mugshot. Why is it called a mugshot? Well, you might know the word shot, you know, or shoot, a picture. So that's the shot part. And mug is actually slang for face. You know, he's got an ugly mug, for example. So it's a face picture, a mug shot. It's pretty interesting how some of these slang words can make it into everyday speech. So, Mr. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, describing the case as politically motivated. All right, we got a lot to talk about here. So we're going to start with repeatedly. That just means again and again. Trump has again and again said this. He has denied something, okay? Be careful with your pronunciation here too. It comes from the word deny. And I really want you to be careful with that because, you know, a lot of my students, they say Denny, but it is in fact deny. Okay. When you deny something, you say, I didn't do it. Okay. So my neighbor stealing dogs, he might deny it. He might say, it wasn't me who stole the dogs. It was Reese, right? He is denying that he stole dogs. And Trump is denying any wrongdoing. You might have figured this one out already. Wrongdoing. Let's swap those around. Doing wrong. Doing something wrong. He has denied doing something wrong. Wrongdoing is a nice way to use those words. And it sounds a bit advanced. It sounds like we're being specific with our vocabulary, but we're actually not. It's kind of a trick. So people think we're smarter than we are, or we have more information than we actually have. And so we see this a lot in the news. So that helps them seem more credible, more trustworthy. He describes the case as politically motivated. Now, the thing that motivates you is the thing that helps you to do something. In the morning, my morning coffee motivates me to get out of bed. It gives me a reason to do it. Now here, Trump is saying that this whole case that they're saying about him, all these stories, they are politically motivated. People are telling these stories, they have a reason that they're telling them, and it's politics, you know. Maybe they don't want him to be the next president, for example. So they are making up these stories about him so that he is less likely to be president. That is their motivation. That is why they are doing it. Maybe. Next up, he faces 13 serious charges, including racketeering for allegedly pressuring Georgia officials to reverse the results of the 2020 presidential election in that state. Let's start with faces. If you face something, it means to accept something that is unpleasant, something bad maybe, and to do something about it. So you might face a breakup. If someone breaks up with you, it might be difficult, but in the end, you need to accept it and deal with the problems and moving on. So in this example, Trump faces 13 serious charges, and now he has to do something about them. But what is a charge? In the legal sense, a charge is just what you are being accused of. It's what the other side is saying you have done. Okay, so my dog stealing neighbor, he is being charged with, it could be thievery or perhaps even kidnapping of an animal. That is his charge. If it's true or not, it's still his charge. And Trump is facing 13 of these charges, including racketeering. Racketeering is like doing a lot of illegal activities in order to get something. Maybe this is disguised. It looks like it's legal, but when you get in there, actually it's not legal, right? So you could think of it as an illegal company. So Trump maybe allegedly set up an illegal company or started doing lots of different activities and employing people to try to do something illegal. The reason being he wants to be the president again. For allegedly. Now I just used that word, didn't I? Allegedly is a word we use when we don't want to say something ourselves, but it's something that people are saying. Okay, so I don't want to get into trouble with President Trump. So I'm going to say that he allegedly tried to change the election results. Okay, maybe I believe it, maybe I don't, but this is what the people are saying. So this word allegedly, it comes up a lot in the news because it's a way that they can keep themselves safe. A way they can say things that may or may not be true without lying. They're safe. So for allegedly pressuring Georgia officials, when you pressure someone or a group, you are trying to get them to do something. So you might pressure them in a few ways. You might offer them some more money, or you might say, I'm going to find something illegal that you did if you don't do this. It's a bit like blackmail, perhaps. So that's pressure. And he's allegedly pressuring Georgia officials to reverse the results. So as you might know, in 2021, Trump stopped being the president. He didn't get the votes that he needed. And what they're saying he might have done is get the Georgia officials to count their votes again and reverse their decision. So, in other words, say the opposite of what they said before. Say that he got enough votes. Because if they do that, maybe Trump can be president again now. On Thursday, Mr. Trump submitted a document acknowledging the accusations against him and chose to be absent when the charges are read in court. Okay. So Mr. Trump submitted a document. So when we submit in this context, it means to give something, maybe a piece of paper. It could be a drawing, an art piece, something like that. Just to put something in that way. And what Trump submitted was a document, a written piece of paper, perhaps, acknowledging the accusations against him. Now, this word acknowledging, you might know, no. Okay. So if you acknowledge something, you say, I know. Okay. So in other words, they are saying Trump did this, and he's saying, okay, I acknowledge that. I know you're saying that. He's not saying I know it's true. He's saying I know that has been said. Okay. So he's acknowledging the accusations. Okay. So remember that comes from accuse. That's to say somebody did something. So he's acknowledging the accusations. He's saying, okay, I know you are saying I did this. And he chose to be absent when the charges are read in court. Now, absent is the opposite of present, which might be a couple of words you know from school. You know, at the start of the day, the teacher reads out the names Bob, Jeff, Cinderella, Reese, and you put your hand up and you say, present, you know, I'm here. But if you don't do that, if you're not in school, you're absent. Okay, you're not there. So Trump, he is going to be absent in court. He's not going to come to court to hear what he's being accused of again. He already knows this, so he doesn't want to go. Okay, a law professor at Georgia State University considers his absence from court insignificant. Now, I'm actually going to start with absence because it is the same word as absent. It's just a different form of the word. So absent is an adjective and absence is the noun, but they have the same meaning. Let's jump back a bit. Consider. Okay. So in this context, consider means he thinks it. That's literally it. So the law professor thinks that Trump being absent from court is insignificant. Okay. Insignificant means not important. Now you might already know this one. In, to start a word, means not. So significant must mean important, right? You can say this is a significant detail. This is a significant part of the story. Or you could say it's insignificant. Okay, so one more time. Significant, important. Insignificant is not important. Mr. Trump's court date was set for the 6th of September, following the other defendants in 15-minute intervals. It will be televised and broadcast on YouTube, a Fulton County judge ruled on Thursday. He's followed by other defendants. In other words, the other defendants will go after him. He is followed by them. You can imagine walking down the street and there's a guy behind you. He is following you. Okay, and now imagine that that's time. I'm first, he's second. I'm followed by him. In 15-minute intervals. Okay, so an interval just means a part of time. So in 15 minutes, they get 15 minutes each, then it's the next person. Just like that. It will be televised. You probably know television. So if something is televised, it's put on television. That's pretty good, right? And broadcast on YouTube. Okay, broadcast is similar to televised, but it's not just about television. It can be radio, TV, or maybe just on the internet like it is here with YouTube. Okay, so at the end of this, I usually like to read it all again without stopping in a native way. Okay, so I do my best to speak in a native way. I am a native, but of course we've been stopping and discussing things. Now I will not do that. So I'll read this in a second, but before I do that, I'd like to ask you to hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, so you can get more videos like this. Okay, let's jump into it. Trump pleads not guilty in Georgia election fraud case. Former US President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in his Georgia election fraud case, waiving the right to be in court next week. Mr. Trump is among 19 people accused of trying to change the results of the 2020 state election. Last week, he turned himself in at Fulton County Jail in Atlanta, where he had his mugshot taken. Mr. Trump has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, describing the case as politically motivated. He faces 13 serious charges, including racketeering for allegedly pressuring Georgia officials to reverse the results of the 2020 presidential election in that state. On Thursday, Mr. Trump submitted a document acknowledging the accusations against him and chose to be absent when the charges are read in court. A law professor at Georgia State University considers his absence from court insignificant. Mr. Trump's court date was set for the 6th of September, followed by the other defendants in 15-minute intervals. It will be televised and broadcast on YouTube, a Fulton County judge ruled on Thursday. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.